In today's video, I survived for 600 days in hardcore Minecraft. And let me tell you, the more days that pass in this world, the more incredible it becomes. I have been working on this world since December of last year, which means this world is now almost 8 months old. And yet it still feels like there is just so much to do inside of it. As this world continues to progress, there are some big projects that I have in mind, including one that I've actually started during this very video. I want to transform my poor excuse of a nether spawn into a massive nether hub. I want to change my entire end island into something so much more than it is now. I would like to expand my base and build massive castle walls around it. And today I began draining my very first ocean monument that I have some insane ideas for. So if you do want to see this world grow bigger and better in future videos, then I'd highly recommend you consider subscribing and become part of the Domination Nation, because we are on the road to 1 million subscribers by the end of 2021. And we are already 2/10 of the way there. However, if we want to achieve that goal, we are going to have to kick it into overdrive. Also, if you do go on to enjoy the video, then don't forget to drop a juicy like. If this video gets 30,000 likes, then it would really make me a happy guy. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave a thick comment down below that says something like, "I like your cut, G." The algorithm loves that stuff. Also, one last super exciting thing. For the first time ever, I am releasing merch on the channel. This has been an absolute long time coming. We have been working so hard on these designs for 2 months straight, and each and every one of them was made with a lot of thought put into them. There are 3 different designs, including one that features my very fluffy cat cheese. You can get these in black, white, purple, or yellow, and they come as both t-shirts and sweaters. Overall, I am so happy with how amazing these turned out, and it would mean so much to me if you guys would go check them out. Each purchase helps support the channel and me. If you're interested in picking up some of this amazing merch, there's a link in the description down below to my brand new website. And I want to say thank you all so much for helping me get this far, and I honestly cannot wait to keep stepping up my game and making tons more quality content for all of you to enjoy. And I really hope you go on to enjoy these merch designs as much as I do. Anyways, we've got a lot to do these 100 days, so let's get straight into day 501. On the first day, I ignored the pile of full shulkers that I had laying around my base, and instead, I began preparing for the next huge project. Today, I was going to drain the ocean monument that I had turned into a guardian farm behind my base. So the first thing I did was grab the 3 tridents that I had laying around in my chests for literal years, and I grabbed some enchanted books for them. After grabbing the tridents, I began dyeing more shulkers to finish filling up my ender chest because I am lazy and I did not want to clean out the 20+ boxes that were laying around. And as I was doing that, I kid you not, it started thunderstorming. So I grabbed the trident that had loyalty and channeling, and I went out on my first ever mob head hunt. While out here, I failed a couple of times, but I finally charged a creeper and had him blow up a zombie, and I got my first zombie head for the collection. Right after this, I charged a second creeper and lured him into the water, and he blew up another zombie and a skeleton, and I got a second zombie head. But for some reason, the skeleton head was nowhere to be found, so I'm guessing he probably drowned first. What a guy. Anyways, it conveniently stopped raining right after this, so I guess the 2 new mob heads were a pretty good haul for my first ever supercharged creeper hunt. And apparently during the thunderstorm, there was another set of skeleton riders that spawned, and after killing them, I got 2 more skeleton horses to add to the stable. So I went back, grabbed some saddles and a lead, and I brought them back home, and I guess I have 4 skeleton horses now. Good day. And if you're wondering why all the footage is in third person, well, let's just say that I recorded a black screen because my recording software was looking for Stardew Valley instead of Minecraft. On day 502, I went over to my trading hall and began buying books for my 2 OP tridents. After this, I began rerolling another librarian until he got impaling for the tridents, and this man wanted 64 emeralds a book. Yikes. But I was not about to sit there rerolling for the next 2 days, so I said screw it, I'll take 20. After this, I went back to my house and I maxed out the enchantments on both of my tridents. I renamed the one with Riptide from the Yeet Stick to the Yeeter Deleter, and I also renamed the channeling trident to the Creeper Conductor. And not gonna lie, every time I spell anything in Minecraft in the in-game font, it makes me second guess if I've spelled it or not. I had to Google search the word conductor, and I spelled it right. Anyways, after all of the time that I've had these tridents, I've finally actually done something with them, so you should totally be proud of me. On day 503, I started the day off with some scrumptious capitalism to repair my Creeper Conductor trident. After it was repaired, I mended my incomplete god bow, and just like that, I had blew through all of my levels, which I know it doesn't matter, but not gonna lie, I kind of missed being level level 100. So it was off to the end I went to slap around some ender dudes. Cue the first montage. After swiping away at these men for 15 minutes straight, I decided to leave after hitting level 50 because I had bigger and better things to do in preparation for draining the ocean monument. On day 504, tragedy had struck. I crafted a very ridiculous amount of buckets for milk, and I grabbed some shulkers to put them in, and I headed over to see Big Mac for some milkies. That's a sentence. Anyways, Rem and Rom were gone. I was devastated. And yes, I saw the comments in the 500 days video that said how I needed to tame them so they wouldn't despawn, and like at that moment it kind of clicked. The reason why Jeff the llama stayed with me this entire time was because I had tamed him. This was also the exact same reason that I lost the 2 llamas in the 100 days of ocean video. Today was a sad day, but I mean, don't worry Rem and Rom, you will be avenged. So anyways, I drained every last drop of milk from Big Mac here, and I filled enough buckets with milk to supply me with enough for a single bowl of cereal. Don't judge me. After this, I went back to my farmer's market and I bought a luxurious amount of golden carrots for my adventure, and I threw them all into my care package. Then I made more golden apples, grabbed a bunch of strength 2 potions and a potion of regen, and I organized my inventory so I could go sponge hunting in ocean monuments. On day 505, I took off towards the ocean monument near my house and I dove into the water and broke inside of the bottom. While in here clapping those guardian cheeks, I realized that I forgot to bring doors for air, so I retreated for now. But don't worry, I will be back. I may have just begun using tridents, but I was slapping mans around like a pro. I took down the first Elder Guardian with ease, and then I kept exploring, and after finding and killing the second one, I took a look in the gold room, and then I noped the hell out of there. There were so many dudes in there that it was unreal. So after steadily clearing out the room, I stole the 8 golden blocks, and I continued on to find the final boss room, and once I found it, I banished the final Guardian to the Doom Dimension. Now that all the demons were gone, I spent an unreasonable amount of time looking for the sponge room, and not so big surprise, this monument didn't have one. Great. So I swam out of there with a whopping 3 sponges. On day 506, I set back out to search for ocean monuments, but instead I found a sunken ship that I haven't found yet. And on top of that, there was a treasure map inside one of the chests. So I hunted down the treasure, and inside of the chest, there were 2 fresh and never frozen diamonds, plus my first heart of the sea. So I guess that means this was going to be one massive loot expedition. And speaking of loot, not far away from where I found that treasure, I had flown over my first ocean monument. So I dove in the water and broke in, except this time things were different because I wasn't planning on redesigning this monument. I didn't care about any of the damages I caused. I swam into the treasure room, cleared out all the mans and took their gold, and then I had found it. My first sponge treasure room. So I grabbed my hoe and there were 30 sponge in here. After looting the sponge, I kept breaking through walls looking for the middle Elder Guardian, and I ran into a second sponge room. And just like that, I had more than a stack of sponge, and this was only the first monument. Now that I had what I came here for, I beat up the center Elder Guardian, and I fled from the literal army that had spawned above the monument. And while swimming to a nearby island, I spotted an underwater ravine. And you know what? These 100 days are focused on ocean things, so I thought, why not get distracted, swim down there, and look for some easy diamonds? And what do you know? I actually stumbled upon 5 diamond ores while down here. Nice. During the sunrise of day 507, I took part in a war with a bunch of drowned, and out of the 2 trident boys that spawned, they dropped one for me. And of course, I didn't hit record in time for it, so hello comments saying I cheated in something that isn't useful to me. Anyways, while exploring the ocean, I stopped by another sunken ship in the hopes of a treasure map, but I had 0 luck, so I just kept going until I hit a desert that had a pretty alluring desert temple in it. So I broke into the floor, dug down to borrow whoever's loot this was, and there were 3 diamonds inside one of the chests, which is kind of ironic because I'm out here looking for sponges, and all I keep finding are diamonds. Diamond beacon, please. And speaking of a diamond beacon, I found yet another desert temple that was being guarded by a Twitter stan. After taking him out, I dug down to the loot room, and inside 2 of the chests, there were another 3 diamonds, plus a free golden apple and another saddle. It was almost like the world wanted me to succeed. On day 508, while continuing my search for loot, I decided to stop in a swamp biome because I wanted more diamonds, and recently some people in my comments let me know about a shulkercraft video that blew my mind. In some worlds, you can use the clay inside of swamps or rivers to predict where diamonds will spawn. All you have to do is place 6 blocks away from the center of the clay in the south direction and dig down in the 7th. And if you hit the chunk border before you hit 6, then do the same thing on the opposite direction. So I dug down in the first clay patch that I found, and I know the footage is dark because I may have forgot torches, but yeah, I hit diamonds. I found me a clean 4 diamond ore. So I spent the next 4 days exploiting the witches' breeding grounds for diamonds. And you may be asking, why not just put torches in your offhand while doing this so you could see better? Well, this is actually super dangerous. You should never really dig straight down in Minecraft. I mean, just look at this. I found a mine shaft with 2 creepers waiting for me, watching me, smelling me. Okay, maybe not that last part. Anyways, throughout these couple of days, I struck diamond vein after diamond vein after diamond vein, and my handy dandy yeeter deleter helped me leave the water tunnels so much quicker than before. Overall, this process took until day 212, and I ended up with a total of 36 diamond ore, which sounds pretty good, but in comparison to regular mining with beacons, this is significantly less efficient. And on top of that, I've had to sleep each night away so I didn't have to deal with all the mobs while doing this. So yeah, you shouldn't really do this. But hey, 36 more diamond ore is pretty poggers, am I right? On day 513, I left the swamp and immediately found the village hidden in the flowers, and it had a blacksmith which had pretty much nothing in it. So I did what any man of culture would do, and I stole all of their bells and bales. Not far from the village that I definitely didn't rob, there was also a second village that I also didn't rob. Anyways, I found another ocean while looking for more monuments, and I found another shipwreck, and inside of one of the chests was another treasure map, so I went looking for it. You know, I really do get distracted very easily, don't I? So on day 514, while looking for the first treasure map chest, I flew over another boat that you know I just had to stop by. And what do you know? There was actually a second treasure map inside one of the chests. So I flew by this desert looking for the first treasure chest map, and I found where it was. Except there was another desert temple near it. So I dug up the chest and got another 2 diamonds in a heart of the sea. And after that, I went over to the desert temple, and these chests were thicker than a Pixar mom. There were diamond and gold horse armor, 2 diamonds, some gold, and some saddles. After leaving the temple, I set back out and searched the next treasure map, and I found the next location for my crimes against guardians to take place. However, while flying over it, the treasure map started to fill in, and it ended up being in a nearby swamp. I dug underwater for the chest, and there was a ton of iron, some gold, more diamonds, and a 3rd heart of the sea inside. And now that I had my treasure loot, I flew back to the ocean monument and landed on a nearby mountain to prep my inventory and sleep the night away, because there is no way in hell I was going down there without being able to see all the boyos that were waiting to ruin my day, or I guess night. On day 515, I immediately dove into the water and I broke into the ocean monument, and today was going to be a speed run. Cue montage. By the time I was done destroying the city of Atlantis, it was becoming night, so I landed myself on a nice nearby giant mushroom and I slept out in the stars. After looting the last monument, I set back out for the next 4 days in search of another, and let me tell you, I am a easily distracted person. I kept stopping at villages and stealing their bells and hay bales. I found an abandoned nether portal with 2 gold blocks, and I stopped by a bunch of desert temples, and almost every one of them had diamonds inside. In fact, these days were absolutely insane. I found 2 massive deserts that were full of villages ripe with things to indefinitely borrow, and there were just so many more desert temples. And while looting one of those desert temples, I struck super gold. I had finally found my first god apple, and it's safe to say I freaked the hell out. I continued exploring until I found one of the most beautiful environments in Minecraft, a worm ocean. I mean, come on, all of the colorful coral are so vibrant and just gorgeous. That is, until I started destroying them, so I had some to take back to my base. Sorry, Bikini Bottom. While I was flying around the warm ocean and beach biomes, I found a sunken ship with a buried treasure map, and when I dug up the treasure, there was another Heart of the Sea. And not long after that, I found another one with another map that led me to the same location. It was as if the Flying Dutchman was scamming me to get back for what I had done to Bikini Bottom. On day 521, I explored another shipwreck that had a treasure map, and the treasure was conveniently buried right by one of my favorite types of village. And this had me kind of thinking, maybe in the future I can get some non-vanilla villagers for my base. Anyways, the treasure had another Heart of the Sea and some juicy iron, diamond, and emeralds inside. And after getting the treasure, I explored the village, and they had a PainDomination bed inside one of their houses that I stole. Anyways, at this point, it was becoming nighttime, so I used my brand new PainDomination Edition bed to sleep out under the stars. On days 522 through 524, I set out looking for more ocean monuments, except I ran out of ocean to look in. So I ended up in an ice biome, and while flying above, I ran into a village that I've actually never seen before. It was an ice village. And let me tell you, this place had some major vibes. I loved all of the lanterns and the choices of a superior building wood, and there was even an Arctic blacksmith that I didn't even know existed. Anyways, while I was looking around the village, I noticed something looming over the hills in the distance. There was an illager outpost, and there were 3 banner boyos, so I went up and deleted them all from existence. And this is where that little light that hangs around out above my massive brain went ding! Let's do a raid in the nearby village and score some more totems of undying. I mean, at this point, I only had 1 totem left that wasn't inside of an item frame, and it's in my left hand. And I also may have mentioned making a raid farm literally months ago. So yeah, I was going to do this. So I grabbed my beacon shulker and some building blocks, and I constructed a tier 4 quadruple beacon that for some reason I tried to build the wrong way. You think after all of these beacons that I've built, I would, remember how to build them. But you'd be wrong. So now that I had regen, strength 2, resistance 2, speed 2, and jump boost 1, I was prepared. So I made a crappy sky platform with some stairs that only I could climb, and as the sun was going down, I went to sleep. I needed my rest because tomorrow there was going to be a war. On day 525, I prepared my inventory with ender pearls and items to make this raid even better, and then I ran into the village to begin the carnage. And this was a level 3 raid, which means it was nothing to mess with. In 200 days of hardcore, I did my first bunch of raids, and they nearly destroyed me. But this was going to be much different, because now I was unbelievably OP. So I guess the best way to show you just how well this went would be to do an insane montage. Q raid shadow ledge. I mean Q raid montage. Sorry. At the end of this montage, it was day 526, and I had gotten 8 totems of undying, 4 saddles, and 8 more ominous banners. Plus, I now really wanted to make a raid farm using that outpost near my base that I'd found a couple hundred days ago. And yes, I know, I got very distracted at this point. It's almost like I didn't even come out here looking for ocean monuments. So now that I had defeated the tier 3 raid and I had the hero of the village buff, I broke all 4 of my beacons and cleaned up all of the iron blocks, and I set back off towards my house so that way I could actually utilize the buff and not get rip-off prices for all of my stick traders. On day 527, as I was traveling back home, I stumbled across another ocean monument, except I had a choice to make this day. If I wanted to go in and explore, I was going to have to sacrifice my hero of the village buff, because there is no chance I wouldn't need to drink milk to erase that stupid mining fatigue effect. And not gonna lie, I was very conflicted, but I had to do what my heart told me. So instead I flew home so I could make some more money. And on the way home, I ran into a Badlands biome that I hadn't seen this part of the map before. So I stopped by an exposed mineshaft full of DC villains, and instead of continuing to risk my life for the possibility of a second god apple from minecart chests that may or may not have even been there, I made the not dumb decision to leave and instead go harass the nearby sand village by stealing their bell and all of their hay bales. So after robbing the village from Tatooine, I set back off towards my base with absolutely 0 distractions. Okay, I might have lied about that one. I found another desert temple, except apparently someone beat me to this one, and I have no clue who that could have been. Anyways though, while I was here, I noticed my hero of the village timer had started counting down, so I took back off towards my base, and I kid you not, I returned home with only 1 firework left in my inventory, because the rest were inside of my shulkers, which I should probably be more careful about in the future, but I probably won't. On day 528, I woke up like a kid on Christmas Day. I ran over to the villager trading post, filled my inventory with sticks, string, and feathers, and I began the massive amount of capitalism that was about to take place. So I traded with these guys over and over and over and over and over and over. I think you get it. And while doing this, I repaired every tool that I owned back to brand new with mending, and I also gained an absolute buttload of XP. The stonks were absolutely flying in non-stop until one by one these men started refusing my trades, and I guess they couldn't handle the heat. By the end of this beautiful money-making session, I ended up with another stack and 37 emerald blocks. And after those exploits, I placed out all of my shulkers and I began organizing all of the loot that I pulled from our big grand journey. I mean, just look at this beautiful box of stuff. I got a ton of gold, some golden apples, and a god apple, 5 hearts of the sea, a ton of horse armor and saddles, 4 stacks of stolen wheat, 23 diamonds, and 49 diamond ores. So I took all the diamond ores and I began placing them out, and honestly, this is one of my favorite moments in all of Minecraft. Just breaking all of the diamond ores that you found from a good mining trip with a Fortune 3 pick. So good. My compliments to the chef. After mining all of the diamond ores, I ended up with a stack and a half, and overall this trip yielded me almost 2 stacks of diamonds, which meant I now needed to clean up all of these shulkers, which I counted, by the way. There's 25 full shulkers of crap just sitting around my base. So this was going to take a while. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot that I also had gotten 8 totems from this trip as well. So things were looking pretty good. And overall, cleaning up all of these shulker boxes took until the end of day 529. On days 530 through 532, I dyed an additional shulker box red and I named it Tools and Totems because my care package shulker was getting real full. After this, I organized the 2 shulker boxes and my ender chest is now 100% full and it looks like a brand new set of Legos. Anyways, now that my inventory and shulkers were all sorted out, I began the next step of preparation to drain the ocean monument. I was going to need stone bricks for the perimeter, like a lot of stone bricks. The circle I was going to make was going to require 636 blocks per layer, just for one circle, just the perimeter. So I went down to my mining area to clear out massive amounts of stone for bricks. And while doing this, I grabbed almost every ore that I found along the way, and I even found some more diamonds. While down here, I also decided to break down the rest of my old nether portal, and I covered it over because this place was looking like a complete mess. I was also thinking, as another one of my future mega projects, I would like to make this area down here into something cool, like some kind of underground safe haven or something. So during this entire process, these Lord Sticky Boys would not leave me alone. So I decided to take a break from mining and go check to see just how deep the water was around the monument. So that way I knew what I was getting myself into. So on the next day, I swam out to the monument and I began placing blocks from one of the deeper parts of the perimeter to see just how many layers on average there were going to be. And I placed 32 blocks, meaning if the entire ocean floor was equally as deep, this was going to take 32 layers of 636 blocks, which is 20,352 stone bricks, which is 318 stacks. That would fit in 11.8 shulker boxes, which, quick maths, not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I went back to my base and grabbed 15 shulkers to fill, so that way I had a pretty big margin of error, especially since the ocean floor isn't flat and I did not know what to expect. On day 534, I grabbed my backup Silk Touch pickaxe and I went to buy Unbreaking 3 and Efficiency 5 for my villagers to upgrade it. Except after adding Efficiency 5, it was too expensive and I couldn't add Unbreaking. And at that point, I realized I probably could have combined the two books first, then put it on there, but I didn't expect it to be too expensive. Either way, I think the reason this pick is jank was because I had to repair it with diamonds during like the first 100 days of this world ever. So rip good backup pickaxe, I guess. Anyways, after fixing the trashy pickaxe, I went back down to the mine, placed a beacon, and began my long, arduous task of mining 300 plus stacks of stone. Cue montage. After sitting in the mines for quite a long time, I may have gotten a little hungry, so I instead went over to my AFK stone farm and I just let my mouse go ham. And while my character was mining away all of that precious stone, I made a reasonable 4 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I know what you're thinking, and listen here. Alright, that's all I got. You can shame me in the comments. Anyways, while I was feasting on my 4 peanut butter and jelly Gucci sandwiches, I wasn't paying much attention and I came very, very close to breaking my god pick. Look at this boy! Anyways, by the time it was day 545, I had filled the last of the shulkers, and yeah, I know, this process took me like 3 hours. On day 546, now that I had all of the stone that I would need, I went back down and broke my double beacon and took all of the iron with me, while definitely not being interrupted by slimes. Go back to super flat, you heathens. So after breaking the beacon underground and the one above the ground, I placed out all of my shulkers to get my inventory sorted, and after all of that mining, I ended up with an absolute pile of ores, including an additional 37 diamond ore. And guess what? You know the drill. I placed them all out, and just like the younglings from Star Wars, I one by one removed them from existence. And I ended up with a clean stack in 24 diamondes, which I then added to my chest, and I am now almost up to 6 stacks of diamonds, which for how much I haven't been going for diamonds, that's actually pretty good. However, I knew that those were rookie numbers, and in the future, I had a plan to get so many more diamonds. Anyways, I went over to my iron farm, and I crafted all of the iron into almost 4 more stacks of iron, because I was going to need a ton to make all of the beacons to protect me around the ocean monument. Because after that last dumb mistake of not killing the Elder Guardians and drinking milk and losing a totem because I lost my invisibility, I will be taking 0 chances with those gross squishy ocean boys. On the next day, I made the decision to do something awful. I was going to commit war crimes against the iron golems inside of my villager trading hall, because I was pretty sure they're affecting my iron spawn rate in my iron farm, and I needed more iron, damn it. So I grabbed some leads and a bucket of lava, and one by one, I began dragging the iron golems out of the trading hall and burning them to death with the lava, super flat style. And yeah, I felt pretty bad for this, but like, they kept multiplying like rabbits, so it had to be done. I also decided to leave 1 iron golem left in the hall, just in case a zombie got in or something, but he was kind of just vibing in the same spot for like the rest of eternity. I'm also pretty sure that all of my zombie villagers were actually the cause of all these iron golem breeding, so in the end, things kind of worked out. For me at least, not the iron golems. On day 548, I went into the nether and began flying with my elytra down my path back to the wither skeleton farm because I only had 5 beacons on hand and I was going to need so many more because I was going to cover the ocean monument with sextuple beacons. So when I finally got to the wither skeleton farm, the wither skeletons were spawning slower than they ever have before, and I knew something was up. It couldn't just be the enderman at this point. Something somewhere was eating my spawn cap. So I went looking around the forest by my farm and I ran into the motherlode of spawn cap wasters. There was a whole Fire Nation worth of boys over here. So I chopped down some trees and I got to spawn proofing. Except there was so much to do and I really hated doing it. So after about 1/4 of the way, I kind of just said screw it and went back to farming wither skeletons because I have had enough distractions for 100 days. But I mean, hey, just from that little bit of spawn proofing, the farm was already seeing more spawns. And I spent until day 555 here, and I ended up with 2 stacks of coal blocks, a ton of bones, and enough wither skeletons to summon 12 more withers and make 3 quadruple beacons, which would be perfect because, I mean, who needs jump boost in an ocean monument? Small brain. So anyways, I ran back home through the nether and I have a big surprise for everyone. Upon entering my base through the nether portal, I may have added a resource pack that changes my skybox. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just look at those clouds and look at the moon. But yeah, if you guys are interested in using that resource pack, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. Also, now that I'm talking about the description, while you're down there, if you're looking for a new keyboard, you should totally check out Kraken Keyboards and use code PAIN because it helps me out. And if you do go and get yourself a keyboard, tag me on Twitter and show me how cool your keyboard is. On day 556, after returning home from the nether, I grabbed the wither skulls from my wither chest and the ones that I had just earned, grabbed some soul sand, and I stepped foot outside to see the beautiful new skybox. And honestly, I really love it, but for some reason, my eyes keep readjusting when I look up at it because the sun is so bright. So I might unfortunately have to disable it. Guess we'll see in the future though. Anyways, I went through the nether portal and then I jumped into the end portal so that way I could go on a hunt for some chonky wither boys today. And so I spent the day stabbing away at each and every wither I built, and as each wither spawned, their first explosion killed some endermen and they dropped me even more wither roses. By the time I was done with the wither executions, I ended up with 9 stacks of wither roses and 14 nether stars, which meant 14 brand new shiny deluxe beacons. So I went back to my base and crafted them up, and just like that, I was now a guy with 18 more beacons. On day 557, I gathered a bunch of emerald blocks for my beacons, and I grabbed all of my shulkers and I set off to make a sea platform for my supplies. I placed out all of the shulkers in my bed, and I began constructing the tier 4 quadruple beacon while being harassed by Sky Satan. And of course, while I was doing this, I got distracted once again by looking at that beautiful skybox. Come on, man, just look at it. Look at it. It's gorgeous. And speaking of skybox, I could have slept away all these sussy phantoms, but nighttime just looks so good. Look at the moon. Isn't it just, it's so real. Anyways, now that I was all set and ready to go, I determined the center 4 blocks of the monument, and I began building out 100 blocks in all 4 directions. I know I originally said I was going to do 160, but I wanted this monument to be large. So I increased it by 40 on all sides. And this process took all of day 558, and I am already beyond tired of counting, and I have just begun this ocean monument project. This was going to be a long time coming, but I was excited because I have some pretty crazy ideas for what to do with this, and I think you are all going to love them. For the next 8 days, I counted out and built the entirety of the perimeter of the circle, and honestly, this process was easier by using this cool website that I found called Pixel Circle Generator, where you can choose the size circle you want and it will draw you a pixel circle that you can follow and make perfect circles in Minecraft with. I mean, how else do you think I did all of this without like a major headache? Anyways, I'll leave a link to that tool in the description as well if anyone is interested in using it. Anyways, building this perimeter took a while, so just enjoy this montage. Just like that, I had filled in the perimeter for the circle, and honestly, it looks even larger from above. The process of laying out the circle was absolutely ridiculous. I kept screwing up, and because nothing was lit up, I had to sleep away each night, so I kind of just wasted more days. But hey, this build is the biggest I have ever built, and when it's done, this is going to look spectacular. On day 568, I added 2 beacons, and I built an inner box around the ocean monument so I could wall off all these jerks so they would leave me alone as I worked. After that, I grabbed the 2 shulkers full of sand that I had, and I began filling in the box. This process took all the way through the next day until I ran out of sand. I was going to need a lot of sand for this project. So I went back to my base, grabbed the rest of my empty shulkers that I had, and I dyed all of them white. They matched. Then I grabbed my juicy desert compass. Yes, that is what I named it. And I took off to the desert. Also, on the way, I may have gotten distracted by another ocean monument that I wasn't sure if I had explored. And while sitting there staring at it, I saw an Elder Guardian peeking out through the side. So I thought, you know what? Why not? I was going to need hella sponge anyways. So I broke into the top room, yeeted the first Elder Guardian, and went down to the main room, killed the second Guardian, and stole all of the gold in the middle. And this monument ended up having 2 sponge rooms, so I netted a solid 60 sponge. And after getting out, I got to watch the new and improved beautiful sunset. On day 570, I grabbed my elytra and I took back off towards the desert, and like 2 seconds later, I found another monument. Damn it, I can't resist looting. You know the drill. So I broke in, killed some Elder Guardians violently, and I stole their gold and I stole their sponge. After this, I escaped, and it turns out the desert was right next to the monument. Nice. So I placed out all of my shulkers, cleaned out my inventory, and I went to sleep before the desert became Florida Disneyland. On days 571 through 573, it was time to get me some sand. I began by building a tier 4 beacon, and I gave it haste 2 to make me go sonic fast, even though it has little difference, whatever. And I began what I would like to call the Wadziification of the desert. I bashed away at sand for 3 days straight, and I ended up with about 5 shulkers full of sand. Only problem was my shovel was about to break, so I had to head all the way back home to repair it. And this time, I was going to come back with some backups. So I grabbed 3 of the diamond shovels I had gotten from the end cities, and I bought all of the enchantments I would need to make them perfect. I named the first shovel Sand Tsunami. Let me know in the comments if you know what anime that's from. It's pretty obvious, but good reference nonetheless. After that, I named the second shovel Desert Destroyer because alliteration is funny, and I named the last shovel Sussy Baka because I ran out of names and I didn't want to stand here for 20 minutes trying to think of a name. On day 574, I went over to the boys to do some beautiful capitalism to repair my shovel and all of the tools, and I ended up with a cool 32 blocks of emerald. But I wanted to make this quick because I was running out of time if I wanted to get the walls for the ocean monument finished by the end of 100 days. So I set back off towards the desert to finish filling up the sand, and I spent all the way until day 579 absolutely wrecking that sand's KD ratio. Cue sand montage. After spending multiple hours just smacking sand, I flew back to the monument so I could continue imprisoning these jerks in their new tomb. And when I got back, I counted my sand-filled shulkers, and I had ended up with 15, which should actually be enough for the rest of the project if I tear down each wall as I go. The process of getting that sand also burned through 3 of my 4 shovels, and I may have almost broken the most important one. I really need to get more netherite. There's not enough time in 100 days, I swear. Now that I had all of the supplies I was going to need, it was time to fully trap these mans in their new forever prison. So I spent the next 2 days straight filling in sand, and on day 581, it was complete. I had filled in the first box of sand that would help me drain the monument. However, I had a problem. I couldn't use sponges to drain this middle part yet because it would just fill back in. So later that night, I concocted a big brain plan. A planny plan that smelled like pistons. I got the idea from an auto sand piston pusher from multiple people online that are doing their own ocean monuments, including Lagundo. So now that I had built it, every time I placed sand, it would push it over until it had filled in 12 rows of sand underwater. This was going to make my life significantly easier. Also, it was going to be faster, and on top of that, I wouldn't have to deal with the jerks smacking me every time I go in the water. On day 583, I had enough of the inner box made that I could finally test out sponges, and yeah, apparently 8 blocks wide is too much. So I went into a creative world to properly test it out, and 5 and 6 definitely work, and and 7 mostly works. And I guess I just got unlucky with 8, even though I had tested it in another creative world before. I guess I just did something wrong. I don't know. This is unlucky. So now that I knew how wide I would need each of these columns, I went back to my world and tested it out. And let me just say this now, I don't want to see any of those comments down there roasting me for how badly I may have screwed this up, because listen, I'm already kind of ashamed. So instead, you should totally say something like, hey, don't worry, water may have won this battle, but drought will win the war, or something cool like that. On day 584, I decided to take a quick break from the Ocean Monument project to quickly prepare for the Creeper project that I totally said I would do these 100 days. And now I was in a time crunch to get it done. But that's okay, because I've already done a test build in the creative world and I know what resources I'm going to need. So I grabbed some shulkers and I started gathering them together. For this build, I am mostly using concrete with a little bit of red wool and some pink terracotta. However, I was going to need a lot of red dye, green dye, lime green dye, white dye, and light gray dye, which meant I was going to need a ton more red flowers and cactus. So the next day, it was back off to the desert I went. And on the way there, I saw a bunch of red flowers, so I stopped by to steal some nature. Except while I was doing this, I had the big brain idea to search for alternative ways to make red dye, and apparently you can use beetroots, which is odd. But hey, I now had a ton of bone meal because of the wither skeleton farms, so that is definitely an easier way to get more red dye in the future. Anyways, after collecting the flowers, I went back to the desert, and I spent the rest of the day just clapping some cactus cheeks. On day 585, I got back to my base with an inventory full of a measly 4.5 cactuses, which I already threw into the auto smelter for that juicy green dye. While waiting for those to cook, I jumped into the water with the last shovel that was not almost broken, and I gathered as much gravel as I could to fit in my inventory. And after 2 inventories full, I began crafting all of it into different concrete powders that I was going to need for this project. And now that I had all the resources that I needed, I spent the next 4 days starting Project Creeper. And honestly, this project was an absolute pain, so the best way that I could show you me building it would be a montage. Cue montage. At this point, I had finished the front of the legs, the body, and the front-facing creeper head, and the TNT on top, and things were looking really good, especially with all of the speed bumps that I hit along the way. I had to make the creeper disproportionate in size because I was mostly using powder that would fall without supports, and the size of the farm inside required my man to be a thick boy. Anyways, this is where I was going to leave off Project Creeperfall for these 100 days because I was running out of time fast. In the future, I'm going to fill in all of the sides, add more spawn platforms inside, and fix the loot system down below because it was getting super full. Plus now I had this extra massive room inside of the front feet. Overall, this project took until day 593 because building like this was kind of hell. And now that I was done with this, it was going to be back to the Ocean Monument. If I could at least drain the middle square by the end of these 100 days, then I was going to be pretty happy. So now that my creeper was done, kinda, it was back to filling in the sand grid around my monument. And this process took the next 3 days straight, day and night. And by the time I was done with this is what it looked like. And not gonna lie, there is something so satisfying about seeing all of the progress that I've been making. It is going to be insane once we fully drain this entire circle. So now that everything was set up, for the last 3 days, I was on a mission. I had to drain each segment as fast as I could using sponges. However, I only had 3 stacks of sponges that I had to continuously keep going back to the nether to dry them out. And just like that, I was seeing just how much time this was really going to take. At this point, it was already day 600 and I was only halfway through draining out the middle part of the monument. But hey, that just means I've got a lot to do in 700 days. I have a creeper farm to expand, creeper design to finish, and now an ocean monument to continue de-oceaning. And just like that, that is the story of how I survived 600 days in hardcore Minecraft. If you did make it to the end of the video, I just wanted to say thank you again. This is an absolute dream job, and I love making content for all of you to enjoy. I also wanted to give a huge shout out to my channel members. You all go the extra mile in supporting me, and it really does mean so much to me. Also, don't forget about our crazy new merch that I am so proud to call mine. I hope you all pick up as many as you can, because that is another huge great way for you to support me, and you also get something crazy cool to call your own. There's a link to my merch website in the description down below, and it would mean a lot to me if you guys did at least go and check it out. Anyways, this has been PainDomination, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.